10 o'clock, Chairman.
Yep. Good morning all and welcome to Dorset Council's Licensing Committee. My name is Councillor Emma Parker and I'm Chairman of Dorset Council's Licensing Committee, and with me on the screen at present I have my Vice Chairman. If you would like to introduce yourself, please.
Good morning everybody, my name is Councillor John Andrews and I'm the member of Sherwood East.
Thank you, Councillor Andrews. Just to go through some housekeeping beforehand, this is a live meeting and it is recorded live on YouTube. We do have two producers that are doing that for us this morning, and that is Lily Broad and Kerry Oliver. They will be with us to ensure that our meeting runs live and smoothly. Also, with that in mind, if you can all please keep your background noise to a minimum best you can. Bearing in mind, obviously, this is a virtual meeting. Majority of us probably are working from home or having this meeting from home. And just to remind you, because it is a virtual meeting, the chances are that some councillors will be running off of two devices, so we might not be fully looking at the screen all the time, but we are very much listening to what's being said. You'll note that there is a chat bar. That chat bar is going to be monitored by my Vice Chairman, Councillor John Andrews, and that chat bar is only there for you to put a right to speak in, an RTS. Please don't make comments in that chat bar. That's not what it's there for. The only time that you can put comments in that chat bar is if you are experiencing technical difficulties. Obviously, we will be making minded to decisions today because this is a virtual meeting, and those minded to decisions will be taken by Graham Duggan, and Graham is Head of Community and Public Protection. And also, as you'll be aware with our meeting today, that obviously we do have a premises license, so we will be going into exempt business, but that exempt business we will be taking a vote at the end of the meeting to go into exempt business for that. Okay, right, that's the housekeeping over. I will now go into the introductions, and hopefully I will remember to introduce everybody that we've got on here this morning. So what I will do first, I think, is if I go to our clerk, if I could get our clerk of the meeting to introduce herself and go through apologies, that might be easier than actually trying to go around the room to decipher who's here and who's not.
Good morning, I'm Elaine Tibble. I'm a Democratic Services Officer for Dorset Council and I'm here to clerk the meeting. And we have apologies from Carol Jones, Mike Barron, Kathy Lugg, Paul Harrison and Julie Robinson.
Okay, thank you, Elaine. I'll do a quick roll call to make sure that I've got the rest of the councillors on. Obviously, I've got Councillor John Andrews with me this morning. Do we have Councillor Derek Beer?
Good morning, Chairman. Yes, yeah, I'm present. Thank you.
Morning, Councillor Beer. Thank you. Councillor Susan Cocking.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'm present. I'm here.
Good morning, Councillor Cocking. Thank you. Have I got Councillor Mike Dyer?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, Chairman.
Good morning, thank you. Councillor Les Fry.
Good morning, Chair. I'm present.
Good morning, Councillor Fry. Have I got Councillor Brian Heatley?
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Councillor Heatley. Councillor David Morgan.
Yeah, good morning, Chairman. I'm here.
Morning, Councillor Morgan. Councillor David Taylor.
Good morning, Chair. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And Councillor Kate Weller.
Good morning, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Weller. So I have all my councillors present. So I will now ask my councillors if I've got all of their attentions. Do any of the councillors have any declarations of interest? No. That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. Do we have any urgent business?
No, Chair, we don't.
Thank you very much. Right, okay, I will now ask my council officers to introduce themselves. Obviously, I have already introduced Elaine, who is our Democratic Service Officer for the meeting today. So I will now ask for our legal representative to introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair. My name's Lara Autry and I'm a solicitor with Dorset Council.
Thank you, Lara. I will now go to our report author and our licensing team leader for introduction.
Thank you, Chair. It's Aileen Powell, but I'm not actually. I'm the licensing team leader, but I'm not the report author on these. That would be Catherine Miller and John Newcomb.
Thank you very much, Aileen. Okay, I will now ask our report authors to introduce themselves, please.
Good morning, Chair. It's Catherine Miller, report author for the Wiggle sexual entertainment venue licence renewal.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And now I will go on to John.
Good morning, Chair. Yes, I'll be presenting agenda item 5 this morning on delegated powers. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. And John is our service manager, licensing and community safety operations. Thank you. I believe we have Graham Duggan is with us this morning as well, because Graham is going to be taking our minded 2 decisions.
Good morning, Chair. Here.
Thank you. Good morning. I believe I've covered all officers. So I will now move on to the for the premises licence. So I will now ask for the applicants to please introduce themselves.
Good morning, Chair. I'm John Walsgrove and I'm representing the premises this morning.
Good morning, Mr. Walsgrove. Thank you.
Good morning.
And we have Mr. Morning.
Sorry, good morning, Chair. My name is Jasper Lodgler. I'm the DPS and licence holder at Wiggle.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Okay, I will now go on to anybody that's made representations, and we have we've got 1 representation. Is that, and that is from Mr. and Mrs. Corney. Do we have them in the meeting? No?
No, Chair, we don't.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, well, I believe everybody has been introduced. Please say so now if I have missed you. No? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we will move on to our first agenda item, and I will now go to the report author to outline the report for us, and our report author is Catherine. Good morning, Catherine.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. The application is for renewal of the sexual entertainment venue licence for Wiggle in Weymouth at 33 New Street. The licence renewal date is the 14th of December 2021. However, under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act of 1982, the licence remains in force until its determination by the authority or it is withdrawn. In this case, it is still remaining. The application form and current conditions are attached at Appendix 1, which is on page 9. The application was advertised as per the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act in the local paper and at the premises. And following the consultation process as per the Weymouth and Portland SEV policy, the licensing authority has also consulted with the police, Dorset Mortuary Fire and Rescue, ward councillors, ward members, Weymouth Town Council, Environmental Health and Planning, and there were no objections received from any of these bodies. There was 1 objection received from a member of the public, and their comments can be found at Appendix 2, which is on page 13. Under the Weymouth and Portland SEV policy relating to the renewal of licences, it states, on application to renew a licence for the same proposed house and licensing activities and conditions as previously granted, the council shall give due weight to the fact the licence was granted in the previous year and any years before that. The policy can be found at Appendix 3, page 15. The premises has held an SEV licence since 2010, and in 2018 Mr. Odger took over the ownership and the licence was transferred to him. Since then, there have been no issues reported to the authority and they have operated in a responsible manner. The premises reopened in August 21 following the lifting of COVID regulations which affected the SEVs. The premises has remained open until October 2021. I'd like to remind members that options available to them are to grant the renewal as applied for, attach individual conditions, or refuse the licence. The committee will need to make a minded to recommendation to the head of service, who is here to make the decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for that. Appreciate that. Catherine, did we have any withdrawn representations at all?
No, only just the 1 representation, which is Mr. and Mrs. Corney.
Okay, thank you very much. John Newcombe, is there anything that you would like to add at this point?
No, nothing from me, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, councillors, do you have any questions for Catherine with regards to the report?
Chair, I'll start one off. Catherine, thank you very much for that report. I noticed that you said there hasn't been any problems, so I'm just checking, have there been any complaints do you know about to the responsible authorities, i.e. police or yourself, in respect to this premises?
Not in the time that Mr. Odger's had it, no.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. That just clarified it for me.
That's okay, Councillor Andrews. Do you have anything in the chat bar?
Nothing at all, Chair.
Okay, I would assume councillors have no questions for Catherine at this time. So I will then move on to the applicant for Mr. Walsgrove. Do you have any questions for Catherine?
No, thank you, Chair.
Okay, and Mr. Odger, do you have any questions for Catherine at this time?
I can speak on his behalf. He doesn't.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
he doesn't have any questions.
That's great. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, and thank you for that, Catherine. Okay, I believe we still don't have Mr. and Mrs. Corney on the with us this morning.
No, Chair, they haven't joined.
Okay, thank you. I've got Councillor Heatley. I think she's just pinged up a right to speak for Catherine. Councillor Heatley.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Sorry for the slight delay. I was using the wrong mouse, which is the sort of thing that happens when you've got two screens. A couple of an empty box and something I can't find on the license application. First of all, there's a policy which says that there should be a criminal record check. I noticed that the box for the relevant criminal record check is empty. Is that because this is a company applying, or is it an actual omission?
No, it's not. It's not a company. It is Mr. Odger, and he has completed it. It was done online, which you can do with a disclosure and bar in service. And there's little numbers and PIN numbers that have to be passed between myself and Mr. Odger. So it has been done, and I confirm it was clear.
Okay, so it's done,
yes.
And I can ignore that empty box.
Yes, you can.
Secondly, the policy says that an application should have a statement of how the venue will operate and an external and an internal plan. That's 3.4 on page 17. I can't find anything like that attached to this. Is that important or not?
It would be because Mr. Odger's had the venue. It would have happened. It would have been produced at the time, so it carries on.
I mean, it is clear that those old plan and operational things continue. It's not that if we issue a license now, you can say, well, there's no plan attached to it, therefore it is not affected by the operational thing, right? It's fine. It just carries on.
Yes, it
okay,
does. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have Councillor Cocking got a question, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Cocking.
Thank you, Chair. I was just looking for the times of operation. It doesn't say anything on the licence, but on Appendix B, page 27, it says the public before 8 and not after 2000 hours and Friday and Saturday. Is there specifics to the times of opening for this club?
Sorry, yes, they have. They'll be on their actual premises license. So right. they have a liquor license as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So their operating hours will fall under that.
Right. It's just for the renewal one. I couldn't find anything on there. It's only just a couple of pages, and so I didn't know what the operational hours were for the business.
The one the page 27 are you referring to on Appendix
B?
B?
The other page, which was right at the very beginning with the 2-page. Hold on, sorry, I'm trying to go down it to find it now. Renewal for license on page 9.
Oh, the actual application form.
Yeah, the application. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's a straightforward application form because it assumes that the hours are as were before.
Do we know what the hours are, or?
I can tell. If you just bear with me 1 minute, I will have a look for you.
Sorry.
It's okay. So their hours of operation are well, they're 24 hours.
Right. Okay. Perhaps when we speak to the either the solicitor or the DPSA, we can find out exactly.
That's their operation for their SCV part. Their liquor license is till 5 AM, I believe. But I'll just double check that with you a moment.
Right. Okay.
Yes, they're till 4:30 is alcohol, and their opening hours are till 5 AM from 10 AM.
Okay, that's lovely. Thanks, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Andrews, do we have any more right to speak?
No, we've got no other RTSs. Chair.
Okay, thank you. We have no responsible parties.
Sorry. Oh, right, it's okay. It's Councillor Weller's just put one in, but that's for the applicant. So
okay,
after they
okay, I'm going to be coming on to the for the applicant next, actually. So thank you. Okay, I will now move on to the applicant, and we've got Mr. Walsgrove, which is the barrister, and we do have Mr. Odgler as well, who is the DPS and the licence holder. Good morning. Is there anything that you would like to add to your report?
If I could just make some brief representations on behalf of Mr. Odgler. I'd better just first say, for professional reasons, I'm a solicitor and not a barrister.
Okay.
But we're absolutely not fine, but I thought I'd better correct it for the record. I appreciate a person who has objected to this application isn't here. So I will try and keep my representations as brief as possible, but it is important just to go through the essential parts of your decision, so that we've covered hopefully all the points that you would want to take into account when making your decision. As you've heard, it's an application for a renewal of the sexual entertainment venue licence, which has been there for some considerable time. And in fact, this is the first time since Mr. Odgler's owned the premises that anybody has objected to the renewal of his licence. It has just been renewed in previous years without any objection. As you know from the report, there are mandatory grounds on which you can refuse the renewal and discretionary grounds, and there are no mandatory grounds which apply here, so you can completely ignore all of those. And of the discretionary grounds, there is only one that's relevant to your consideration, and that's whether it would have any adverse impact on the locality. And of course, we say that renewing this licence would not have any adverse impact on the locality, principally for the 10 or so previous years it's traded without any issues whatsoever. You've heard previously from the licensing officer that there have been no complaints either to the licensing team or from the police. And obviously a number of responsible authorities have been consulted on this application, and none of them have raised any concerns with you. So in terms of your policy, you were drawn to one particular part of that, which is that the committee would give weight to the fact that the licence had been renewed on previous occasions. So I commend that part of the policy to you, alongside the fact that all of those responsible authorities are consulted on every year and no concerns have ever been raised by them. Mr. Odgler, in addition to this premises, has a number of other sexual entertainment venue licences. So he started in Portsmouth and has two premises in Portsmouth which have been open for approximately 20 years. He has another in Southampton and a fourth in Bournemouth. And all of those licences, again, have been renewed each and every year. Not to say that one or two of those don't get objections from local people regarding the impact on their locality, but in any case, they have all been granted each and every year. I think the person who has objected to the application has suggested that there might be antisocial behaviour and noise if this licence were granted, but in the previous paragraph has said how peaceful and quiet that area is. And it seems to me that implies they don't realise that this club is actually there and has been operating for quite some time. It gives the impression that they think this is a new licence as opposed to a renewal. And I would suggest you can attach great weight to that, because clearly if they don't feel any impact now since they moved in, then they're not going to feel any impact going forwards. So the applicant is a person of good character, as I say. In terms of the 4 other premises and this one, I totted up, it's over 60 renewals he's done in those different licensing authorities. He works well with both the police and licensing authority. As I say, never had any issues. And of course, sexual entertainment venues are extremely well regulated by conditions, not just those conditions on the premises licence, but also that set of conditions that are set out in your report, which apply. So all the sort of usual things about use of SIA security, CCTV, Challenge 25, all the usual things you would expect to be in place are heavily regulated. And because the licence comes up for renewal every single year, that puts a huge amount of responsibility on the shoulders of any SEV licence holder to make sure they get things 100% right, because of course if their licence is not renewed, that basically brings their business to a close. They're basically shut down. So I think this committee can have confidence both in the past conduct of Mr. Odgler at Wiggle Weymouth and also going forwards, and therefore I would ask you to renew his licence for a further 12 months. And I leave those representations there, and obviously either myself or Paul can answer any questions which arise.
Thank you, Mr. Walgrove. Do you know as to whether Mr. Odgler wanted to, has got anything to say at the moment, or does he just want to take questions?
No, he doesn't want to add to that, but
okay.
Yes, if there are any questions about the operation of the club, then he can answer those. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any questions. All my questions that I had were already answered in the report, and they've been answered also just echoed again this morning with the representations that I've already heard. Councillor Andrews, do we have any RTSs?
Yes, Councillor Weller, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Weller.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Chairman. It's really just confirmations. For background, I was actually on the original licensing committee back in 2010 for this premises, and at that time the operator kindly invited members of the committee to visit the premises during opening hours so that we could assure ourselves of how it was run and be happy with the whole procedure, which was very interesting, I have to say. I just want to confirm now that the premises, it's not somewhere I frequent, so I'd be grateful for a confirmation from either of the applicants. Just the premises is very much as it's always been, and you still operate with a high degree of care for your performers. I know that always was the case in the past, and I'm hoping that that's still the case. In terms of those people watching the performance are kept at a suitable distance from those performers, no touching policy and so on, and that private rooms are regulated, if you are operating private rooms, that they are regulated with care, so the people who are working there their well-being is cared for fully. In terms of the noise and so on, as I think some of you are aware, I've been a street pastor for many years, and we never heard any noise emanating from this particular premises. There are premises around that are noisy. This wasn't one of them. I appreciate that I wasn't there every night, but I was certainly there regularly outside and never heard any problems at all. But if perhaps you could just confirm that all that care is still being taken. A lot of the performers, on the whole, I think they're not very young women, but they are women, and I'd like to be sure that you're caring for them.
Certainly, Councillor Weller, a number of points you mentioned. So yes, the operation is the same. Obviously, Mr. Odgler wasn't operating it when you visited, but I can confirm it's essentially the same, obviously, with his company's branding. Certainly, the care given to the performers is at the highest level. As I said, he's a very experienced operator of 5 venues across the South Coast over the last 20 years. And the most fundamental part of that business is the care given to the performers so that they feel entirely safe at the premises, firstly whilst they're working, but secondly ensuring that they leave the premises safely and get home. There are, as you say, those policies about the distance between the customer and the performer, and also obviously a no touching rule. That I'm not going to give you the entire list of rules, but just to assure you that no conduct which is untoward is permitted. There are SIA security working in there, there is CCTV, there are private rooms but covered by CCTV which is monitored, and they don't get inappropriate conduct, but they certainly have the means to deal with it should it ever arise, and it would be swiftly dealt with. So the fact that a lot of the performers come back time and time again, because it is somewhat of a transient industry in that the women move around as you would expect, and so they have regular performers and then they have ones that might come for a year or so, but all are treated extremely well, and many return back to one or other of his venues across the South Coast specifically for that reason, because they are entirely comfortable with the way he works.
Thank you very much. I'm very reassured. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Cocking next, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Cocking.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to know what the capacity is of the venue, because it says if for every 100 people there should be 1 doorman. I know Mr. Walsgrove just mentioned about the security, but I just wanted, given some concerns around the noise, I just wanted to know what the capacity of the venue is.
I'll have to ask Paul to answer that one, as I don't know. Paul, are you able to confirm the capacity?
Yes, the capacity there is 150, but we never ever go much beyond 60.
So that's 50, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely, thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions, Chair. No more questions.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Okay, I will move on now then to the report off that we had. Catherine, do you have any questions?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And we've had no responsible parties, so we won't have any questions from them. And I believe the Mr. and Mrs. Corney that made representation, I believe we still don't have in the meeting with us this morning. So now I would move on to responsible authorities, but we have no comment at all from either Environmental Protection or the police, who would have been consulted. Also, so now I would move on to anybody that has made representation, so if they obviously would like to speak. Obviously, we don't have anybody here that has made representation. So with that in mind, I will now move on to ask all parties if they would like to do their summing up, and I generally do that backwards. So I will start with Mr. Walsgrove. Ms. Walsgrove, have you got anything that you would like to add to summing up?
Very briefly, one comment. Your decision, in my view, should be based on tangible and credible evidence as opposed to opinion and speculation. And I would say there is a dearth of such evidence before you, and the residents' objection, in my view, it is speculation, and clearly they don't appreciate that that club has actually been there for a very long time, because it hasn't had the impact they say that it will have if you grant the licence. So I commend to you the application and grant it in the terms applied for. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Walsgrove, and thank you for yours. Councillor Andrews, did I see a right to speak?
Yeah, you have from Councillor Fry, but I was going to let you carry on and the licensing authority speak, and then come back to Councillor Fry.
Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, so I will now move on to Catherine. Catherine, have you got anything to add for summing up?
Nothing further to add, thank you, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. Just turning my camera and microphone on. I just want to pick up on the points of the complaints, the objectors, to say, reading them there for those observing this meeting. There's no evidence in their objections that we can uphold to say that these the objections are supportive of the licensing conditions. So although they say they complain strongly against this type of venue or establishment being allowed in this area, which is currently very pleasant and peaceful, I would like to point out to those watching that this venue has been in for a while, and we have no grounds to look at their objections in relation to that. The same, it says about poor behaviour, but we have no evidence of poor behaviour in this area. On the contrary, it appears well run and well managed. So we're struggling to find any objections within the licensing conditions that we can not support this application.
Thank you, Councillor Fry. Okay, I'm mindful that I've come to summing up, but I just want to make sure that everybody feels as though they've had their say this morning. I don't want anybody going away from here feeling that they wish they'd added to anything. So have I got any more comments from anybody else before I move on to the next part of the meeting?
Chair, I would just ask Catherine, do we actually visit this premises to make sure that all the licensing conditions and objectives are in place?
Yes, we have visited. However, obviously, since the last year or so, we haven't been able to because they have been closed, but they will be visited to come when they are reopened again.
Okay, thank you very much. No, that's it. I don't think there's anything else, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just pass over now to Lara, who is our legal representative. Lara, can you just clarify that all relevant points have been addressed, please?
Yes, Chair, I can confirm that.
Thank you very much. So we obviously, like I said, I will be taking a vote to go into exempt business at the end of this committee this morning, and that's where we will retire to make our minded to decision. We will have our Democratic Service Officer in that meeting with us, along with our legal representative, should we need any advice, and obviously we will also have Graham Duggan with us as well, because Graham does need to take our minded to decision. I just would like to remind you, with the right to appeal, it is only the applicant that has a right to appeal if they are not happy with the decision that the licensing committee make today. And you have that right to appeal, and that is within 21 working days to Weymouth Magistrates Court, and that is when you have received the decision written notice. When we've made our decision today, obviously our decision, like I said, will be a minded to decision to Graham Duggan, but once that's been that's all, everybody's happy with that, then Aileen, I would believe it'd be Aileen or Catherine, either one of them will then relay to the parties that have made representations today and the applicant of our decision. Is that all okay? Okay. Thank you, Aileen. Okay, so I will now move on to our next item on the agenda, and that's for delegated powers for urgent revocation or suspensions to taxi licences. So I will now hand over to John Newcombe. John.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Chair. So agenda item 5 is a report which is before the committee for consideration in relation to delegated powers for urgent revocations or suspensions to taxi licences. Chair, we're looking for two decisions today. Recommendations are that a decision is agreed to delegate the powers which currently sit with the licensing committee to the executive director of place, in consultation with the chair or vice chair of the licensing committee, to immediately suspend or revoke Hackney Carriage private hire driver licences where considered necessary in the interests of public safety. And the second decision, Chair, is that consideration be given to adopting a fast track procedure to relicense those drivers who have had their licences revoked or suspended but subsequently found to be fit and proper. Chair, you'll be aware that we license taxis and drivers under two pieces of legislation: Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1976 and the Town Police Clauses Act, but both quite old pieces of legislation, but still fit for purpose. And the majority of issues where we have complaints about drivers are dealt with by way of interview and brought before the committee by way of a report in normal times with normal planning. However, there are a very small number of occasions each year where we have to take immediate action for matters that are serious, and some examples of those are given within the report. Now, those powers sit within section 61 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 76, and that is a power to suspend, revoke or refuse to renew. And there is an additional power for that to be an immediate effect. Now, the underlying reasons behind that is if a matter is brought before committee, there's a 21-day appeal period, and during that time a driver may continue to drive until the matter is heard at court. But under the immediate revocation power 61(2)(b), the driver cannot continue to drive. There's still an appeal period, but they cannot continue to drive. And we only really use this power in serious cases, Chair, so matters of violence against a passenger, indecency, sexual assault, sexual conduct, drugs, alcohol, or a failure to comply with the medical standards. And the power sits within the delegated scheme within the council's constitution to the licensing committee, and it can be delegated down to a subcommittee or to an officer. And the proposal is, Chair, that it's delegated down to a senior officer in consultation with the chair or the vice chair. So in practice, what that means is if we get a serious allegation, we will always give the licence holder an opportunity to make representations, to give their side of the story. If the matter is deemed serious enough that this power be invoked, then a short report will be brought to either yourself or the vice chair for a decision and enactment. It is expected, Chair, that this power will be delegated down from the chief, from the executive director of place to the service manager or the head of service, and that is also listed in the report. I suppose the only other real thing to bring to your attention, Chair, is just some relevant case law. So we have a couple of cases, Singh being the most important, which is the case of Cardiff City Council, which goes back to 2012. And the decision from the courts there was that this power is absolute. It shouldn't be a holding power. You shouldn't suspend a driver and then hold a committee meeting and revoke afterwards. It's one or the other. And this was reinforced by the Reigate and Banstead case versus Pulowski, where the judge agreed that it's one or the other. You shouldn't use a suspension as a holding mechanism and then revoke afterwards. And so there's some background relating to those cases within the report. But just to add, Chair, that this is rarely used. It is only in identified serious cases, and in relation to the fast track procedure to bring licensees back in, it's really just where allegations are made, initial investigation is brought forward, and a revocation or a suspension is imposed, and then further details come to light which actually exonerate the licence holder, and rather than start the whole process again with a new application, a new fee, DBS disclosure, etc. It's to get them back online as soon as possible. And if you are minded to agree both of those recommendations, Chair, we would seek to bring in procedures to be able to do that as soon as possible. And then just lastly, Chair, we do have delegated powers under the predecessor council licensing policies and delegations, but of course we've got our brand new licensing policy, so we're really just tidying things up, ready for that coming into force, and delegating that back down through the minutes, through the decision making process, so that we're sort of belt and braces, Chair. Thank you. Happy to answer any question.
Thank you, John. Do we have any questions?
Yes, we have Councillor Fry.
Councillor Fry.
Thank you, Chair. John, I like both recommendations, but just a quick question. I think they're both valid and they're both worthy and they're both good to go. What sort of timescales are you sort of saying that you want to fast track people back on the road again? So shall we say an individual has had his licence taken away, revoked, he's then subsequently cleared from whatever the investigation's taken place? What sort of timescales would you get them back on the road again?
Well, I think, Chair, each case on its own merits. If we can validate the requirements immediately, then it would be without delay. So once the senior officer, in consultation with the chair, is happy that that licence be reinstated, and we've got all of the necessary paperwork in place, then that would happen virtually immediately. So I wouldn't like to put a timescale on it, because we could spend, you know, a couple of days investigating, rechecking any evidence or allegations, etc. So I think once we're happy that everything is in place and that license should be reinstated, or a new license granted in effect is the legal mechanism, and then we would seek to do that as soon as practical.
Thank you, John. In relation to the revocation, that would be almost an immediate one, would it? If you get notified of some indiscretion by a driver or whatever, then you would revoke there and then and take it away.
That's right, Chair. So it, just to give an example, if an allegation of a serious matter is brought to us, we would seek to speak to the licence holder, get their side of the story, bring a short report to the chair or the vice chair on the same day, and make a decision as soon as possible, and the licence holder will be notified of that immediately. Yes, so it's a very quick, fast track process, which is why we're taking advice from the judge in the Reigate case that we also instate a mechanism to get that driver back online as soon as possible, should new information come to light.
Thank you, John. That's really helpful and useful stuff. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Fry.
Councillor Heatley, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Heatley.
No, he's removed. He removed his.
Yeah, the last bit addressed what I was worried about.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further questions, Councillor Andrews?
No, we've got nobody highlighted. So
I know I don't have any questions. It's
in that case, Chair, can I
straightforward?
In that case, Chair, can I propose that we're minded to recommend items or recommendations 1 and 2 in the report?
Do you want to take them on block, the 1 and 2?
On block.
Yeah. Okay. Do I have a seconder on that one?
I'm happy to second, Chair. That's Les Fry.
Minded to on both, Les?
Yes,
Councillor
please.
Fry?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think they're both good recommendations.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I've had a proposer and a seconder, and obviously this is going to be for the recommendation for the delegation, and obviously we do have the fast track one as well, so you will, well, the minded to decision will be for 1 and 2 if that's okay. I've already had Councillor Andrews, you're in favour?
Yeah.
Supporting? Thank you. Councillor Beer?
In favour, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cocking?
In favour, Chair.
Councillor Dyer?
In favour, Chair.
Councillor Fry?
In favour, Chair.
Councillor Heatley?
In favour, Chair.
Councillor Morgan?
In favour, Madam Chairman.
Councillor Taylor?
In favour, Chair, thank you.
Councillor Weller?
4.
Okay, and obviously I am minded to approve that as well. So I will now move on to Graham Duggan, who is Head of Community and Public Protection, who has listened to our minded to decisions. Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I can confirm that I've been present throughout the meeting so far and have listened to the discussion on this particular item. And accordingly, I am happy to approve the minded to decisions that your committee have just taken.
Thank you very much. Thank you, councillors, and thank you, officers, for your time this morning. And again, thanks for a good report there as well. Noted at the beginning, we had no urgent business. That we are completed on our agenda now. So if I could have a proposer and a seconder that we now move into exempt business to make the decision for the premises, please.
Chair, I would like to propose we move to exempt business.
I'll second, Chair.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Heatley. Okay, thank you all for joining us this morning, and I will now draw this meeting to a close. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.